The stars looked peaceful that night. They always did in this part of space, far from any planet or station. Captain stood at the bridge of his ship, looking through the wide window at the endless darkness ahead. His vessel, this Grace, moved slowly through the void. It was an old cargo ship, built for carrying goods from one corner of the galaxy to another. Nothing special about it. At least, that was what everyone believed. Was a man of 42 years. His face showed the marks of a hard life. Deep lines ran across his forehead, and his dark eyes had seen too many things. He had served in the military once long ago, but those days were behind him now, or so he thought. The bridge was quiet. Only the soft hum of the engines filled the air. Beside him stood the ship's medic. She was younger than maybe 30, with short black hair and calm eyes. She rarely spoke, but when she did, people listened. She had a way of seeing things others missed. "Captain," she said softly, "something feels wrong." Did not answer right away. He had learned to trust feelings. She was never wrong about these things. Below them in the engine room worked on the power systems. He was the ship's engineer, a man who could fix anything with his hands. He was short and thin, with oil stains on his clothes and grease under his nails. The ship was his home. He knew every pipe, every wire, every bolt. If something broke, could repair it. If something worked, could make it work better. The crew of Grace was small. Only 12 people lived and worked on the ship. There was who handled communications and, when needed, the weapons. He was young, only 25, but he had quick hands and a sharp mind. There was Myra, who managed the cargo and supplies. She kept everything organized and running smooth. And there were others, pilots, mechanics, and workers, all doing their part to keep the ship moving through space. They were not soldiers. They were not warriors. They were just people trying to make a living among the stars. But tonight, their quiet journey was about to change. The alarm came without warning. A loud sound filled the bridge, red lights flashing on every screen. Rushed to his station, his fingers flying over the controls. "Captain," he said, his voice tight, "we have contacts, multiple contacts." Moved to stand behind him. On the screen, he saw them. Ships. Many ships. They appeared from nowhere, dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around this Grace. They surrounded the cargo vessel like wolves circling a wounded animal. "How many?" asked. Counted quickly. 15, no wait, 18, all warships. Stepped closer to the screen. Her face showed no fear, only concentration. "Those markings," she said quietly, "they are." The felt his jaw tight. He knew that name well. Everyone in this part of space knew they were raiders, pirates, conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. Their empire stretched across dozens of star systems built on fear and violence. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black as the void itself, and they had no mercy. The communication screen flickered. A face appeared, a commander. He was larger than most of his kind, with scars across his face and metal plates fixed to his skull. When he spoke, his voice was deep and cold. "Human vessel," they said, "you are in territory. You will surrender your ship and cargo. Your crew will become our property. Resist and you will die." Looked at the commander's face on the screen. He said nothing. They waited for a moment, then laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Do you understand, human? Look around you. You are one small ship. We are 18 warships. You have no chance, no hope. Surrender now and we might let some of you live." On the bridge, the crew stood still. Fear was in their eyes. They all knew what they did to prisoners. Slavery, torture, death. There was no good ending if they gave up. But fighting seemed impossible. This Grace was a cargo ship. It had no weapons, no shields, no armor. At least that was what the records said. That was what everyone believed. Finally spoke. His voice was calm and steady. "This is captain of this Grace. We are a trading vessel on a peaceful mission. We have done nothing wrong. We ask that you let us pass." The commander's eyes narrowed. He leaned closer to the screen. "Let you pass? Human, you do not understand your situation. You do not ask us for anything. You obey or you die. Those are your only choices." "I understand perfectly," replied, "but my answer remains the same. Let us pass." For a moment the seemed confused. Humans were supposed to be weak. Humans were supposed to beg and cry and surrender. This human was doing none of those things. He stood there, calm as stone, refusing to show fear. The commander's confusion turned to anger. "You are either very brave or very stupid, human. I will give you 1 hour. 1 hour to change your mind. After that, we will tear your ship apart and take what we want from the pieces." The screen went dark. Silence fell over the bridge. The crew looked at their captain, waiting. Some of them were shaking, some of them were praying. Turned to face them. His expression had not changed. There was no fear in his eyes, no worry on his face. Instead, there was something else. Something that looked almost like anticipation. "Everyone," he said quietly, "go to your stations. Wake the others. Tell to meet me in the lower deck." Watched him carefully. "Captain," she asked, "what are we going to do?" Looked at her, and for the first time, a small smile appeared on his lips. "We are going to show them," he said, "why they picked the wrong ship." He walked off the bridge, leaving his crew to wonder what their captain knew that they did not. Outside, the warships waited in the darkness, confident in their power, certain of their victory. They had no idea what was coming. The lower deck of Grace was dark and cold. Most of the crew never came down here. There was no reason to. It was just storage space filled with old containers and spare parts, or so everyone thought. Walked through the narrow hallway, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The lights above him flickered as he moved deeper into the ship. After a minute, he reached a heavy door at the end of the corridor. It looked like any other door on the ship, old, rusty, unimportant. But this door was different. Placed his hand on a hidden panel beside the door. A soft blue light scanned his palm, then his eye, then it asked for a code. He spoke 6 numbers in a quiet voice. The door hissed and slowly slid open. Behind it was another world. The room was large, much larger than it should have been. The walls were covered with screens and controls. Machines hummed with power. Lights blinked in patterns that only a few people in the galaxy could understand. This was not a storage room. This was a command center, a military command center. Was already there, standing in the middle of the room with wide eyes. He had received the captain's message and come immediately, but nothing could have prepared him for this. "Captain," whispered, "what is this place?" Stepped inside, the door closing behind him. He walked to the main control panel and began pressing buttons. Screens came to life around them, showing the ship's systems in detail. "This ship," said calmly, "is not what it seems." Moved closer, looking at the screens with growing shock. He saw weapons systems, shield generators, engine modifications, things that should not exist on a cargo ship, things that belonged on a warship. "This Grace," continued, "was built 15 years ago, but she was not built to carry cargo. She was built for the Earth Defense Fleet, military class, destroyer grade. One of the fastest and most dangerous ships ever made by human hands." Could not believe what he was hearing, but the records say. "The records lie," said simply. "After the Quiet War ended, the military did not want to destroy ships like this one. Too expensive, too valuable, so they hid them, changed their names, changed their appearance, made them look like old cargo vessels, and they put people like me in charge of them. People like you." Turned to face the engineer. His eyes were hard now, filled with memories of a past he rarely spoke about. "I was not always a cargo captain. Before this, I was commander of the Third Fleet. I fought in the Quiet War. I led ships into battle against enemies you cannot imagine. When the war ended, they asked me to disappear, to take this ship and wait for a day when she might be needed again." Felt his legs grow weak. He leaned against a wall for support. "All these years," he said, All these years and I never knew. No one knew, that was the point. Return to the controls. But today the waiting is over. Today we wake her up. He pressed a series of buttons. Deep inside the ship, machines began to move. Systems that had been sleeping for over a decade started to come online. Power flowed through hidden wires. Weapons charged in secret compartments. The ship itself seemed to breathe, like a giant creature waking from a long sleep. Watched the screens in amazement. He saw the true size of the engines, 3 times larger than what the cargo ship was supposed to have. He saw the shield generators, military grade, strong enough to stop most weapons. And he saw the guns, pulse cannons, plasma launchers, missile systems, all hidden beneath the old, rusty surface of the ship. Hal asked, "How did you hide all of this?" Carefully replied, "The outer hull is fake, just a shell. Underneath she is all steel and fire. The cargo bays you see, most of them are empty. The real cargo is the weapons and systems hidden inside the walls." A new voice came from behind them. So the stories were true. They turned, stood in the doorway, her face calm but her eyes full of understanding. She stepped inside, looking around the room with quiet interest. "I heard rumors," she said. "During my time in medical training for the fleet, they said there were ghost ships out there, warships pretending to be traders. I never believed it." "Now you do," said. "Now I do." More crew members arrived. Came first, followed by Myra and the others. One by one they entered the hidden room and saw the truth about their ship. Some were scared, some were amazed, all of them were silent. Let them look for a moment, then he spoke. "I know this is a shock. For years you thought we were just a cargo crew. You thought this was just an old ship carrying goods across space. But the truth is different. This ship was made for war. And right now, war has found us." He pointed to a screen showing the fleet outside. 18 warships, waiting like hungry animals. "They think we are helpless," continued. "They think we will surrender or die. They have made a mistake, a very big mistake." Stepped forward. His young face was pale, but his voice was steady. "Captain, what do you need from us?" Looked at his crew, these people who had trusted him for years without knowing the whole truth. They deserved better than lies, but they also deserved a chance to survive. "I need everyone at their stations," he said. "Real stations, the ones you did not know existed. You will handle weapons. Medical bay is now fully equipped. You will have everything you need. The engines are yours, make them sing." Nodded slowly, his fear turning into something else. Excitement maybe, pride. Myra continued, "You will manage shields and damage control. The rest of you follow your training. You know more than you think you do. The skills you learned for this ship, they work the same way on a warship." The crew exchanged glances. Fear was still there, but now it was mixed with something new. Hope, purpose. "They gave us 1 hour," said. "We have 40 minutes left. In that time I need this ship ready for battle. Can you do it?" For a moment no one answered. Then spoke, his voice stronger than before. "Captain, I have been fixing this ship for 8 years. Now I find out she has been sleeping this whole time." He smiled, a fierce light in his eyes. "Let me wake her up properly." One by one the others agreed. They moved to their new stations, learning quickly, working together. The ship around them began to change. Lights grew brighter. Engines hummed louder. Hidden panels opened to reveal weapons ready to fire. Grace was no longer a cargo ship. She was a warship, and she was ready for battle. Outside, the fleet waited in the darkness, confident in their victory. They had no idea that the prey they were hunting had just become the predator. 30 minutes had passed since the commander made his threat. Inside Grace, the crew worked faster than they had ever worked before. Sweat covered their faces. Their hands moved without stopping, but no one complained. No one rested. They all understood what was at stake. In the engine room, moved like a man possessed. His fingers danced across control panels. waking systems that had slept for 15 years. The engines, already powerful in their hidden state, now roared with full strength. Power readings climbed higher and higher. Numbers that seemed impossible became real. Engine output at 70% called into his communicator. 75, 80. Easy, Kame's voice through the speaker. Do not burn her out before the fight begins. Captain replied with a grin, this ship was built to run hot. She wants to move. I can feel it. And he could. The ship seemed alive now, humming with energy, eager to show what she could really do. On the weapons deck sat at his new station. The controls were different from what he was used to, but the basics were the same. Point, aim, fire. He ran his hands over the panels, learning the feel of each button and switch. Before him, screens showed the ship's weapons coming online. Pulse cannons emerged from hidden slots along the hull. Plasma launchers warmed up, their blue glow visible through small windows in the walls. Missile tubes, hidden beneath fake cargo containers, unlocked and prepared to open. Weapons at 60%, reported. Give me 10 more minutes and I will have everything ready. In the medical bay, discovered a room she had never seen before. Behind a false wall, she found a fully equipped military hospital. Beds with advanced healing technology. Medicine that could save lives in seconds. Tools that could repair wounds she thought were impossible to fix. She moved through the room quickly, preparing everything for the injuries that would surely come. War was coming. People would get hurt. She would be ready. Medical bay is operational, she announced. I can handle anything they throw at us. Myra stood at the shield control station, her eyes fixed on the screens before her. She had always been good with numbers and systems. Now, those skills were being tested like never before. The shield generators were complex, more advanced than anything she had seen. But she learned fast. Shields at 50% and climbing, she said. Full power in 8 minutes. Throughout the ship, the other crew members found their places. Pilots took control of maneuvering systems. Mechanics checked hull integrity. Everyone had a job. Everyone knew what to do. Captain watched it all from the bridge. His crew, these ordinary people he had sailed with for years, were becoming soldiers before his eyes. They did not panic. They did not freeze. They adapted. They fought. This was what made humans dangerous, thought. Not their strength, not their technology, but their ability to change, to grow, to become whatever they needed to be. 20 minutes remained. Pressed a button on his console. All stations report status. One by one, the reports came in. Engines ready, full power available. Weapons online, all systems green. Shields at maximum, holding strong. Medical prepared for casualties. Navigation locked, escape routes calculated. Nodded slowly, his ship was ready, his crew was ready. Now came the hardest part, the waiting. Outside, the fleet floated in the darkness. Their ships were large and ugly, built for destruction. Each one was covered with weapons and armor. Against a real cargo ship, just one of them would be enough to win. Against 18 of them, victory seemed certain. On the flagship, the commander sat on his throne. He was bored. Humans were always so easy. They cried. They begged. They surrendered. It was never interesting. But this human captain had surprised him. The man had refused to surrender. He had stood there calm and quiet and said no. It was strange, almost insulting. Commander, one of his officers said, the hour is almost finished. The humans have not responded. The commander smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then we will have some fun after all. Prepare the fleet. When the time ends, we destroy them. Should we not try to capture the ship first? There may be valuable cargo. No, the commander's eyes grew cold. This human dared to defy me. I want his ship in pieces. I want his crew screaming. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the... Baccon's Grace sat alone on the bridge. The crew was at their stations, ready for his command. but he needed a moment of silence first. He thought about the old days, the wars he had fought, the friends he had lost. He had hoped those times were behind him. He had wanted peace, simplicity, a quiet life among the stars. But peace was never free. Someone always had to fight for it. The door behind him opened, walked in and stood beside his chair. "Captain," she said softly, "are you ready?" Looked up at her. "I was ready 15 years ago. I will be ready until the day I die." "The crew is scared." "They should be. Fear keeps you alive." He paused. "But they are also brave. I have watched them tonight. They did not run. They did not cry. They stood up and did what needed to be done." Nodded. "They trust you." "I know, and I will not let them down." The timer on his screen blinked. 5 minutes remained. Stood up from his chair. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, this is the captain. In 5 minutes they will attack. They believe we are weak. They believe we will die easily. They are wrong." He paused, letting his words sink in. "This ship has been waiting 15 years for this moment. You have been waiting your whole lives for a chance to prove what you are made of. Tonight, we show them. Tonight, we fight. Not because we want to, but because we must." Around the ship, crew members listened to their captain's voice. Fear faded. Courage grew. "Remember who you are," continued. "You are human. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not die quietly. When the universe pushes us, we push back harder." 3 minutes. "Stations ready. Weapons hot, shields up." 2 minutes. His voice grew quiet, but every word was clear. "They wanted a fight. Let us give them one they will never forget." 1 minute. The bridge fell silent. Every eye watched the screens. Every hand hovered over controls. Outside, the fleet began to move. Weapons powered up. Ships turned toward the small cargo vessel in the center of their formation. The commander's voice crackled over the open channel. "Human, your time is finished. Any last words before you die?" Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who knew something his enemy did not. "Just one," he said calmly. He pressed a button. The outer hull of his grace began to fall away. Panels dropped into space, revealing the true ship beneath. Steel and chrome, weapons and armor, a predator hiding inside the skin of prey. Surprise. And then the battle began. The first shot came from his grace. Press the firing controls with both hands. 2 pulse cannons erupted, sending beams of burning white light across the darkness of space. The shots hit the nearest warship before its shields could even activate. Metal twisted. Fire exploded outward. The ship broke apart in seconds, pieces spinning into the void. 1 down, 17 to go. For a moment the fleet did nothing. They were frozen in shock. Their sensors had told them this was a cargo ship, an unarmed vessel, easy prey. Now they watched one of their warships die, destroyed by something that should not exist. On the flagship, the commander rose from his throne, his 4 arms shaking with rage. "What is this?" he screamed. "What is happening?" "Commander," an officer stammered, "the human ship. It is not what we thought. It has weapons, military weapons, heavy class." "Impossible." But the proof was floating in space before them. Burning metal, dead crew, a warship turned to nothing in the blink of an eye. The commander's shock turned to fury. "All ships, attack, destroy them." 17 warships moved at once. Weapons fired from every direction. Plasma bolts and missiles and laser beams all flew toward the small ship in the center. But Grace was no longer there. "Hard left," commanded, "full speed." Push the engines to their limit. The ship shot forward, faster than anything they had ever seen. Their weapons hit empty space where the human vessel had been just a moment before. On the bridge, stood at the center, calling out orders like he had done 1,000 times before. His voice was calm, steady, the voice of a commander who had survived battles that would break lesser men. Target the ship on our right. Brace for impact. We are taking fire from behind. Myra shields to the rear. His crew moved as one. Every order was followed. Every action was perfect. The ship twisted through space, dodging fire while returning shots of its own. Found his rhythm, his young hands suddenly as skilled as any veteran gunner. He fired again and again, each shot finding its target. A second ship lost its engines and began to drift. A third took a direct hit to its weapon's deck and exploded from the inside. A fourth tried to ram them but missed, spinning wildly out of control. The commander watched in horror. This was not possible. This could not be happening. A single human ship was tearing his fleet apart. "Focus all fire on that vessel," he screamed. "Every ship, every weapon now." The remaining ships followed his order. A wall of death flew towards Grace. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "All power to forward shields," commanded. Myra's hands flew across her controls. The shields strengthened, glowing bright blue as the enemy fire struck them. The ship shook. Alarms sounded, but the shields held. "Return fire, everything we have." Unleash the ship's full power. Missiles launched in waves. Pulse cannons fired without stopping. Plasma bolts lit up the darkness like 1,000 small suns. The formation broke. Ships scattered trying to escape the human assault, but Grace was faster. She chased them down, striking from angles they could not defend. Another ship died, then another, then another. In the engine room worked like a madman. Warning lights flashed around him. Systems threatened to overload, but he kept the engines running, kept the power flowing, kept the ship alive. "Come on, beautiful," he whispered to the machine. "Just a little more, you can do this." The ship seemed to answer. Her engines roared louder, her weapons fired faster. She was not just a vessel anymore. She was alive, she was angry, and she was winning. On the medical deck treated the wounded. 2 crew members had been hurt when a plasma bolt breached the hull, burns and broken bones, but she fixed them quickly, her hands moving with precision and care. The military equipment worked perfectly. In minutes, both crew members were back on their feet, ready to return to their stations. The battle continued, but the outcome was becoming clear. The fleet was falling. Ship after ship was destroyed or disabled. Their formations were chaos. Their commanders screamed orders that no one followed. The flagship hung back, protected by the remaining warships. The commander stood at his window, watching his fleet die. His face was twisted with fear and disbelief. "How," he whispered, "how is this possible?" He had conquered dozens of worlds. He had destroyed hundreds of ships. He was a lord among his people, feared across the stars. And now he was being beaten by 12 humans in a ship that should not exist. The communication officer turned to face him. "Commander, we have lost 11 ships. 7 remain. Should we retreat?" Retreat. The word burned in the commander's ears. Did not retreat, did not run, conquered or died. But today, death seemed very close. Before he could answer, a new message appeared on his screen. It was from the human ship, from Captain. The commander accepted the transmission. The human's face appeared before him, calm, serious, without a trace of fear or hatred. "Commander," said quietly, "you should have let us pass." The felt something he had not felt in many years, something cold and horrible that crept up his spine and wrapped around his heart. "Fear. Your fleet is broken," continued. "Half your ships are gone, more will follow if you stay, but I am offering you a choice. Leave now, take your remaining vessels and go. Tell your people what happened here today. Tell them what humans can do when they are pushed too far." The commander's mouth opened, but no words came out. "Or stay," he said, "and I will finish what I started." Silence hung between them. On the screens, the remaining ships drifted in confusion, waiting for orders. The commander thought about his pride, his honor, his reputation. Then he thought about dying alone in the cold darkness of space. He made his choice. "All ships," he said, his voice hollow and broken, "fall back, full retreat." The fleet began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, their engines firing as they fled into the void. They left behind the wreckage of their fallen comrades, twisted metal and floating bodies marking their defeat. On the bridge of Grace, the crew watched them go. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They were too tired, too shocked, too amazed by what they had just done. Captain stood at the center of the bridge, watching the enemy ships disappear into the distance. His face showed no victory, no satisfaction, just the quiet relief of a man who had survived another battle. Beside him spoke softly, "It is over." Nodded slowly, "For now." He turned to face his crew, these 12 ordinary people who had become warriors. "Well done," he said, "all of you, you did what needed to be done." And in the silence that followed, they realized something had changed. They were not the same people who had started this night. They were something more. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were human. 3 days passed after the battle. Grace floated in empty space, far from any planet or station. The crew used this time to rest, to repair the ship, and to think about everything that had happened. The damage was not as bad as it could have been. Some hull breaches, a few burned systems, nothing that could not fix with time and patience. He worked slowly now, no longer rushing like he had during the fight. His hands moved with care, treating each repair like a gift to the ship that had saved their lives. "She is beautiful," he said to Myra one morning as they worked together on the engine room floor. "I always knew she was special, but I never imagined this." Myra nodded. "None of us did, but now, I cannot imagine her any other way." On the bridge, Captain spent most of his time alone. He stared out at the stars, thinking about the past and the future. The secret was out now. Not completely. The galaxy did not know the full truth about Grace, but enough. Enough that things would change. Found him there on the second night, standing by the wide window with his hands behind his back. "Captain," she said, "you should rest." "I have rested enough in my life," he replied. "Too much, maybe." She stood beside him, looking out at the same stars. What happens now? It was a good question, had been asking himself the same thing. For 15 years his mission had been simple: stay hidden, protect the ship, wait. But now the waiting was over. The ship had shown what she truly was. The new. Soon others would know too. "We continue," said finally. "We carry cargo, we travel between worlds, we live as we have always lived." But now they know we are not prey. They know we are not weak, and that knowledge will spread. He was right, it did spread. The surviving ships returned to their empire with stories that no one wanted to believe. They spoke of a human cargo ship that transformed into a warship, a vessel that destroyed 11 of their best cruisers in a single battle, a captain who fought without fear and offered mercy to those who fled. At first the leaders called it lies, cowardice, excuses for failure. They punished the survivors, demoted the commanders, tried to bury the truth. But the truth does not stay buried for long. Other species heard the stories: traders who passed through space, spies who gathered information, travelers who listened to whispers in dark corners of distant stations. The story grew with each telling. They said the human ship could not be destroyed. They said its weapons could cut through any shield. They said its captain was a ghost, a warrior from some ancient Earth legend, returned to protect his people. The stories were exaggerated, of course. Grace was powerful but not invincible. Her crew was skilled but not supernatural. Captain was brave, but he was just a man. Yet the legend mattered more than the truth. On a trading station at the edge of known space, a group of pirates met to plan their next attack. They had found a perfect target, a small human freighter carrying medical supplies through a dangerous region. "Easy money," their leader said. "Humans are weak, they never fight back." An old pilot in the corner shook his head. "You have not heard the stories." "What stories?" "This Grace, the ghost ship. They say she looks like a cargo vessel, but underneath she is death itself." The leader laughed. "Fairy tales, lies to scare children." "Maybe, but I will not risk it. I have seen what humans can do when they are pushed. They are not like us. They do not break, they do not bend, they burn." The raid was cancelled. The human freighter passed through safely, never knowing the danger it had avoided. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Raiders who once hunted human ships now avoided them. Empires that once ignored humanity now watched with new interest. Everyone wanted to know how many ghost ships were out there, how many human vessels hid weapons beneath their peaceful exteriors. The answer was a secret known only to a few, but the fear was enough. On Grace, life slowly returned to normal. Cargo was loaded and delivered. Payments were made. Routes were planned. The crew fell back into their old routines, but something was different now. They walked taller. They spoke with more confidence. They had seen what they could do when pushed to the edge. They had faced death and won. That knowledge changed a person. Spent his free time practicing at the weapons station. He was not just a communications officer anymore. He was a gunner, a fighter, and he wanted to be ready if the time came again. Organized the medical bay with military precision. She trained the others in basic first aid, teaching them skills that might save lives in future battles. She hoped those skills would never be needed, but she prepared anyway. Myra became an expert on the shield systems. She studied every detail, every setting, every weakness and strength. The shields had saved them once. She would make sure they were even stronger next time. Anne fell in love with the ship all over again. He discovered new systems every day, hidden features that even the captain did not know about. He documented everything, learning the true nature of the vessel he had served for so many years. "She has secrets," he told one evening. "So many secrets, I could spend a lifetime learning them all." Smiled, "Then spend a lifetime. She deserves someone who understands her." Months passed, then years. Grace continued her journeys across the stars, carrying cargo from world to world. She looked the same as always, old, worn, unremarkable. But everyone knew better now. In the great halls of the Empire, military commanders studied reports about human vessels. They gave orders to avoid confrontation with human ships unless absolutely necessary. The losses from one battle had taught them a lesson they would never forget. In the councils of other alien races, diplomats spoke about humanity with new respect. These creatures from a small planet had proven themselves more dangerous than anyone expected. It was better to trade with them than to fight them. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, where old spacers told stories and shared drinks, the legend of this Grace lived on. They spoke of a cargo ship that was not a cargo ship, a crew of 12 that defeated an army, a captain who stood against impossible odds and refused to surrender. Some said it was luck, some said it was courage, some said it was something deeper, something in the human spirit that could not be measured or explained. Captain did not care what they said. He had done what needed to be done. He had protected his ship and his crew. That was enough. But sometimes, late at night, when the ship was quiet and the stars were bright, he would stand at the bridge window and remember. He would think about the battle, about the fear in the commander's eyes, about the moment when everything changed. And he would smile. Not because he was proud, not because he enjoyed violence, but because he knew the truth that his enemies had learned the hard way. Humans were not prey. Humans were not weak. Humans were survivors, fighters, dreamers who refused to die quietly. And if anyone forgot that lesson, Grace would be there to remind them. The ship drifted on through the endless night, carrying her secrets and her crew toward whatever adventures waited ahead. Her hull was old and worn. Her cargo bays were mostly empty. But her legend would live forever. And somewhere in the darkness, watching from a distance, the rest of the galaxy learned to be very, very careful about which human ship they chose to attack. Because you never knew which one might be waiting for you. You never knew which one might disgrace.